Hey Ville.
Hey Paul.
How's life?
Life is fantastic. Now, especially now because we are here in the new studio here in Espoo, Finland.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. You made a really great job out of it. So,
although I think the wall is a bit empty, I think we need to add something to it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the thing you need to add, of course, is a huge Fintech Daydreaming banner. Something really kind of that shows the brand value of the podcast.
I agree. With some dollar signs underneath or something, right?
Yeah, and flashing neon sign. I think that would be the way to go.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Got a joke for me?
Yes, I do. And I do have to thank our listeners for keeping sending these jokes to us because they really are kind of making the show a little bit more about the viewers as well and listeners, of course. And yeah, I think this is kind of keeps up with the theme that we have here in the podcast about being kind of about fintech, but also very bad. But
good.
But we love this.
We like the good bad jokes, the bad good jokes. Whichever way around it is.
That seems to be the theme that the audience likes, so we're going to keep up with it. Which industry is the most advanced into moving into this equipment as a service business models?
I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to tell me, right?
I will. It is, of course, the toilet paper industry, because it's all about pay per use.
Although you pay in advance still, right?
Yeah, you do. But
you don't pay as you use the paper.
Yeah, that's true.
But I like it.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
And I have to thank my friend and colleague Marina Repo from Stockholm, Sweden, for sending this joke in. So thank you, Marina.
Oh, fantastic. We are Fintech Daydreaming, the podcast that dives into the world of banking technologies and the ever-changing landscape of fintech companies, with real-life examples from guests and experts from across the board. We scour the world, seeking out interesting fintech stories and insights ranging from emerging technologies to game-changing disruptive ideas, brought to us by big banks, technology companies and fintech startups, all seeking to change the status quo, with revolutionary ideas and big, fantastic dreams. This is Fintech Daydreaming. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to this special Christmas edition of the Fintech Daydreaming podcast. I am Paul Krogdahl and will be your host for this episode. And please, my dear listeners and friends, say hello to my dear friend and co-host, Ville Sointu.
Hi Paul, great to be here, and I gotta say I love the idea of closing season 2 like we are today with a Christmas special. I think this is a fun way of doing it, and we're celebrating a little bit. I mean, we have our Christmas IPA beer here.
We do. I mean, so this is Christmas beer made here in Finland, right? By Olvi?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And even though it's a little bit weird to say that there's a Christmas beer that actually is an IPA, I gotta say it tastes good. So cheers to that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it is.
That's really good, yeah.
You can really taste the Christmas.
Christmas!
Indeed.
So, what do you think is going to be our focus today?
Well, we thought about how to end season 2, right? So, I mean, it's been a great season. It's been, of course, out of the 2 seasons, much longer than the first one. And it's the end of the year. And we thought that we've done a lot of great content. We had some really good guests in the podcast. So why don't we just kind of take a look back a little bit? So talk about the different episodes, how we kind of... the show kept on developing, and how we kind of talked to the different guests, and what were the main takeaways from the different episodes.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Exactly. So unfortunately, we will not have a guest present in this episode, but you will get to enjoy, just like in the very first episode that we did in season 1, just us two basically chatting. about this stuff. But yeah, I think it's a good way to end season 2.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Indeed.
So let's start right at the beginning. I mean, the very first episode we had was, as you said, it was just you and me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We had this great idea. We said, hey, we get together all the time and we discuss things associated with fintechs and banking and what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
We have some ideas. Why not just record it and create a podcast?
Yeah, and then it turned out that first of all, it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. The amount of preparation that goes into it, I mean, it was difficult to think that you actually need to do so much background research. You need to do kind of the questions you need to do beforehand. Then of course, there's all the technical things that you are, of course, responsible for. So you do a lot of the editing and things like this. So yeah, I think it's been a great learning experience, and I think you can hear it from the episodes if you listen to the very first episode. And even though we've kind of kept the structure a little bit the same, it's been evolving, and we've found these fun segments. For example, in the beginning we do the joke. We kind of thought in the beginning that maybe we will do the joke once or twice, but then the audience seems to like it so much. We kind of kept on going, and then throughout the season we figured that let's get the audience to do the job for us. And that made things a little bit easier and more interesting, I hope, as well.
I actually quite like the structure. I mean, the joke sort of started almost by accident, right? We had, I told the joke and it just continued, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We just, so I like the structure. I think it's been good, and I think some of the guests that we have had on the show have been fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the guests actually make the show more than we do. Yeah. So why don't we spend, the rest of this time going through the guests? I mean, the first guest we actually had was David Grundy.
Yes.
From Danske Bank.
Yes.
And we talked about a blockchain.
Of course.
Right. Now, David, I mean, he's a fantastic guy. Really cool. And the other interesting thing about it is the close collaboration that the Nordic banks all have got around this area of blockchain.
Yeah.
And you working at Nordea, you've had this great collaboration with Danske Bank and David, and I think that added to the whole episode.
Yeah.
Add to that the fact that at the time when we recorded it, I was the IBM CTO for the Danske Bank account, so I already had also that great relationship with David. So we created this fantastic sort of three-sided dynamic around the discussion. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think we wanted to kind of start with a kind of an easy guest because we knew David was going to be great, and I personally know him, and I consider him as a friend as well, especially after the podcast recording. And he thinks a lot like I do about blockchain. It's the way it actually brings new opportunities to banks, and yet that it's too much hype around the technology, as with always with new technologies, especially when it's as complicated and nuanced as blockchain is.
And then after that we had Tom Bentley from Thought Machine.
Oh yeah.
Right, with the famous quote, what was it he said? Cathedrals of COBOL.
Oh yes.
And I mean, I've got to admit that's fantastic. I use that myself. Right?
Yeah. It's we wanted to kind of keep on with the theme of interesting things that we are working with, right? So moving from blockchain, which by the way, blockchain seems to be a theme that we always come back to because it's
and cryptocurrency.
Exactly, and central bank digital currencies and all the kind of fun stuff around it. But that's only because it's kind of this. The gift that keeps on giving, because in the spirit of Christmas. So blockchain has been a big theme, but then the other theme, of course, especially in the Tom episode, is really about cloud services. Another kind of thing that we've been recurringly doing for a lot of times, and who better to have than somebody from Thought Machine. So Thought Machine is definitely a leader in this space. They've made some great deals, great partnerships, and they're doing great progress. And they are kind of pushing forward the narrative about these kind of dynamic, agile, microservices-based cloud core banking systems as well.
No, absolutely. I think cloud is without a doubt. I mean, there's been an awful lot of discussions about cloud this year within banking. I think next year is going to be the start of where we start seeing regulated workloads and critical workloads starting to move towards public cloud. and it's going to become very critical about how those workloads are managed, how they are regulated, how they are controlled going forwards. But it's no doubt that cloud is going to be the future, right?
Yeah. Well, yes and no, because I'm going to leave this out there as a teaser for season 3. Maybe we've seen the peak of it. Because on the other side of things, hardware is becoming cheaper. And the regulatory burden for regulating or kind of having risk controls over cloud services is becoming more and more cumbersome, not easier for banks, even though with all the development in this space. So yeah, I think in season 3 we're going to be talking about the other side of that equation. So
that's interesting. You actually believe that rather than seeing a growth in cloud, we're going to see a reduction in cloud?
Again, a yes and no. So I'm gonna keep this kind of out there for us to talk about in season 3.
Yeah,
but
I look forward to that.
But I think there's going to be a counter narrative to the cloud thing for sure.
Yeah, no, that's and then I think after that we had Sami from Dias.
Yes, of course, another kind of project that I've been close to.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah. So and again, it was interesting because we had Danske Bank before, and Danske Bank is one of the projects that we at Nordea have been working with together with Danske Bank. Of course, is the Dias project, which is the digital real estate trading network here in Finland that is actually based on distributed ledger technology.
So I mean, after Sami, we had Janne, who is head of the Helsinki Fintech Farm.
Yeah.
I thought a fantastic episode, a great guy to talk with, and let's be honest. I mean, out of the back of that, we got invited back, as you said, to be the sort of commentaries to the Fintech Festival that happened. What was it, last week?
Yeah,
right.
We wanted to kind of bring the fintech into the Fintech Daydreaming podcast. So
we did.
We wanted to have somebody representing the fintech space in general. Yes. And who better than Janne, of course, to talk about the Finnish fintech scene in particular. And I gotta say, this Singapore Fintech Festival, which you can find on YouTube, by the way, it's linked from our YouTube channel, and you can find it from YouTube as well. We did this kind of a commentary part for the pitches from Finnish fintechs. It was a good thing to do. A lot of fun, and obviously enjoyed it a lot, and it was a great privilege to do it. So,
well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, yeah, we've got the jokes, but we also bring some value to it. We had some good insights and some thoughts on it, right?
And horrible jokes.
And horrible jokes. we had some really horrible jokes, right? So it's fair. It's really good, and I think that was the end of season 1.
Yes.
And that was because we got into summer. We had both of us a summer break, time with family and things like that. And COVID was coming in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. Disrupted everything for everybody.
Yeah.
But nice summer, time to relax, time to think. We came back with season 2, which was a slight refresh on the approach.
Yeah.
And I think we had a colleague or someone you knew, Olaf, who came as a guest on the first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
Right?
So I've known Olaf for a while. So he used to work with the utility settlement coin project, which is an interesting kind of a take on central bank digital currencies. So they were in that space before it became a kind of mainstream narrative as it is today. Mm-hmm. And I've had the opportunity to catch up with Olaf when I did my last business trip before the COVID lockdown became into full effect into Paris.
What's this business trip you're talking about?
Exactly.
What are they?
Yeah, exactly. We hardly remember that. But indeed, the last business trip that I did was into the OECD blockchain executive advisory board meeting in Paris.
Okay.
And Olaf is also part of the OECD blockchain advisory board. Like me, and we had a chance to kind of catch up there, and then I realized that this actually could be an interesting kind of guest to the podcast as well. Yeah. And it was a great start for season 2, and a bit of a refresh, kind of after the summer break coming in and having a strong episode. It was a good start.
It was really good, and I think following that was Jack.
Yeah.
Jack from Aryze.
Aryze, yeah.
And Aryze is a fantastic one because, I mean, you've had some interesting discussions with Jack at conferences and stuff, but also I've worked with Jack quite a lot for a number of years. I ended up working with Aryze as a independent advisor to the board for the company. I think as a fintech, they've got a fantastic idea. They're focused on helping the NGOs with the process that the NGOs are going through, particularly where they face problems around, movement of money, etc. Very, very interesting, unique, I would say, to a certain degree, sort of business. And adding to that, I mean, Jack is a passionate guy. There was so much passion in that episode.
Yeah.
It was difficult to control it, right?
Yeah.
I think it was fantastic. And you add to that the history that, I've got with Jack, the history you've got with Jack. It was another one of these episodes where you put three close friends together in a room and then basically say, go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think the scene that came, the kind of movie scene that came to my mind after that episode is from the movie Gladiator. Basically, are you not entertained?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, the history between me and Jack is actually interesting, and that gave a lot of color into the conversation as well, because I was invited into Aryze's organized event to debate with Jack. I think it was like a year and a half before this podcast episode.
Is that the one that was on YouTube?
No. It's also on YouTube. Yeah. So they organized this in the Copenhagen Fintech, one of the Fintech hubs in Copenhagen, and it was a fun small event. And I had a chance to debate Jack. So Jack came out and basically put out the Aryze's proposal, and then I took a very kind of conservative banker kind of approach, and then it kind of turned out to be no fireworks in that. So I think Jack kind of left that conversation feeling a little bit like, well, I didn't get my message out. So then he came back to the podcast and he really kind of came out with guns blazing on that one. So you can hear, especially towards the end of the episode, when Jack really wants to kind of make sure that everything that he left on the table in that first kind of debate, he got out there now.
But I think we need to also point out though that the early scenario of Aryze, which Jack had with him at the debate that he was having with you, was slightly different than the one that they've got today, right?
Yes, yeah.
Things have evolved and they've moved forwards, and that changes a lot of perspectives, I think.
Yeah, and he challenged, of course, because we keep on talking about how everything is great and fun and great with the banks and everything is open, and he said that, well, that's just not simply true. And I can totally understand it from his subjective perspective, but you have to keep in mind that we are in the banking scene coming from a completely opposite direction in our minds.
Yes.
We think we are open now, even though of course it's a really long path that we need to walk to be really open. But again, things have moved a lot in the past 10 years. Even in the last couple of years between the debates, things have moved forward a lot in banks.
Yes.
So I think he brought in the challenge, and I think it was one of the most passionate episodes we had for sure.
I think I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. And then we went from that, backwards to a more refined episode with Elina, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
Around Mobey Forum.
That's right, yes.
Where now you through Nordea are a member with Mobey Forum.
Yes.
I've been involved quite a lot. I hosted a panel debate very recently for Mobey Forum around open banking, and particularly the focus on data and the use of data in open banking, which was very interesting. But I mean, she joined us as a guest, and I thought that was another really interesting episode, right? Talking about the whole movement of Mobey, where Mobey Forum has come from, and where it's going.
Yeah, I think we wanted to bring Elina in. Well, the number one reason really was that Mobey Forum is 20 years old, and that is a huge amount of time in this space. If you're surviving as an industry organization, mostly focusing around networking and collaboration, best practices, and basically just people meeting each other and having great ideas. Those organizations typically don't survive for an extended period of time. 20 years is a lifetime.
So who did we have after that? We had Ewan.
Yes, we did.
Our common friend, right?
Yes. The Ewan Macleod, who is the former CDO, Chief Digital Officer of Nordea.
And now he's down in Oman.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, lucky guy, all that sunshine and everything else. But I mean, he had some fantastic insights and ideas around digitization, looking at the Nordics versus where he is now. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah. So again, it's an interesting kind of theme. I worked, of course, a lot with Ewan in Nordea when he was there as the CDO, and he was always very vocal about making everything digital, working with fintech startups, even from within the bank, and finding ways to kind of open up the old bank that is Nordea. And now then he moved to Oman, took the opportunity to work on a beach, which is of course great. And
I don't think he's quite working on a beach. I mean, I've seen the pictures, right?
Yeah.
He's very close to the beach, but he's still in the office. He's not actually on the beach.
Yeah, but he's still doing his thing. And but the interesting part is that I've also worked in Middle East. So I lived in Dubai for close to 3 years. So it was kind of fun to hear his perspective in the Middle East fintech culture, because I was also exposed to it quite a bit when I was working in Dubai.
Yeah. And then after that, after Ewan, we had one of my, I don't know if I can say favourite guests, but I mean, we had an IBMer attend. So it was an IBM show, right? Because we had Howard Boville come and join us, who used to be the CTO of Bank of America.
Yep.
He then moved from Bank of America over to IBM, and now is the Senior Vice President for hybrid multi-cloud in IBM, or hybrid cloud in IBM. And we had a fantastic discussion with him around the whole area of compliance for public cloud. I know your approach, I know your feelings, I know your thinking here, right? And I think that added to the fantastic discussion. We are, I think, for this episode, for that episode, and for us in general, right? Me sitting on the consulting side, you sitting on the banking side, we have got various different perspectives on this from a perspective going forwards, right? Is cloud going to be a big play going forwards or not? I think Howard added to an awful lot of interesting discussions around that.
Yep.
I actually think that cloud is going to be very critical and very important going forwards for the banks.
Yeah.
In one way or another. I think we're going to have an interesting sort of journey playing out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think the key emphasis on in one way or another. So we'll see we'll see how it kind of shakes up. But yeah, on that episode, I mean, it was fun to first we had the former CDO of Nordea, then we had the former CTO of Bank of America. So we had kind of a streak going on of C-level executives.
It was very high level.
Yeah, right? And the amount of organization of getting a kind of a high level person like that on the show with all the kind of dealings with the assistants and all of that.
Yeah.
It was an experience for sure. But the episode turned out great. We even had a police siren there in the background, which
we did. He was sitting in the center of New York, right? Police sirens and everything going on. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think it kind of added color to the and kind of a human touch to the to that episode for sure. But yeah, I think it was a privilege to have him on. Would love to have him again.
Yes. Who do we have after that? Can you remember?
Yes, we brought in. We wanted to. Well, one of the logical things we of course wanted to do, let's do a counter of what we've done. So we have two CXOs on the podcast. So let's get back to the fintechs. So we brought in one of the close partners to Nordea, Flowtail. So we had
yes, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, so we had Flowtail coming in, and Rasmus Thompson, who is also an ex-Nordea person, but now works for Flowtail, and brought in some kind of, I'd say, energy in terms of working for young people working in a new fintech company, moving forward really fast, kind of in this data analytics space and understanding IoT data as well.
He's the one that had the story about, the blowing up the IoT device that they were testing and demonstrating that suddenly disappeared off the system.
Yeah.
Right. And they brought in the army and everything to do a controlled detonation of their IoT device. That was part of their customer demo on how good they were in IoT monitoring and everything else. I mean,
that was a fun. Yeah. That was a fun thing. It was a literal war story.
It was really, really good.
Yeah. So do go back and listen to that episode. It was a really fun one.
Must do. Yes, absolutely. So what happened after that? Oh, I know. We got invited to the Nordea event as the very first ever live audience podcast episode.
I was called by one of the organizers of these live events. Nordea does these live events for customers, external parties, and invites external people to talk in these events. And this was the Nordea Insights Day that they arranged. And we were invited to do a segment there, and which we decided to do live.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and it was quite thrilling. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, because again, no cuts. So it was basically we had to do it, and it was done after that. And the topic we decided to take for that, because of the audience was specifically interested in central bank digital currencies, we had the opportunity to bring in one of the leading experts in Nordea with regards to central bank digital currencies, Johanna Lübeck-Lilia.
Yes.
And yeah, she was a lot of fun. She's able to kind of have a very clear definition of what it is and what it is not.
Yes.
And what are the kind of central banks want to achieve on this. Obviously, she has a background working for central banks and the finance department of the government of Sweden, and and it was a lot of fun. And again, it was fairly thrilling because I think that was the first one we did with video as well. So it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it probably was actually. I need to go back and look, right?
Yeah.
My history of all the editing I've been doing has got blurred. It might have been the first one we did with video. Live video, maybe it was. Yes, yeah. It could be. It could be. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after that we had Ian Kerr.
Yeah.
Now, Ian, this is an interesting fun one, right? Because when I early on started working with Aryze, one of the things that transpired after the discussions with Aryze was the fact that they needed a core banking system, but they needed something lightweight and focused on payments. And in my search and discussions, I came across episode 6. And that's where I started my relationship with Ian. So I knew Ian quite well when he came on to be a guest on our podcast. And again, I mean, Ian, interesting history. He's been around quite a lot, and I think really good episode there as well.
Another one in the theme of cloud banking services.
Well,
right?
of course it was. I mean, that is, like I keep saying, it is the future. It is cloud. Whether it is on-premise cloud or public cloud, it's still cloud, right? It's still microservices. It's still, based on containers. It's still based on elastic scalability. I think we sometimes get lost in the whole discussion of cloud. We always assume cloud has to mean that it's public cloud. But on-premise cloud is still just as relevant. But I think it's going to become, the future is going to be very much about putting the right workloads in the right place.
Yeah.
Whether that is on-premise, off-premise, whether it's IBM, AWS, Google, right? It's always going to be about putting the right thing in the right place for the right purpose for the right reason.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And I think it was a great contrast to all the other discussions we've been having with cloud. Well, not necessarily contrast, but maybe more color, because you kind of want to kind of have more views into the same topic, right?
Yes.
And of course, it was a lot of fun that it was episode 6 being in episode 8. Of
yes.
season 2.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so but yeah, another fun discussion and another one on video as well. So yeah, it was a learning experience and a great discussion. Ian is a great guest as well.
He was, yeah. Yes. And then after that, I think we get to the last episode we had,
Yeah, exactly.
which was with Keir Finlow Bates.
That's right. So
Who, yeah.
yeah, so Keir Finlow Bates is one of these kind of I hesitate to say a granddad of blockchain, I guess, in Finland, but he's one of these.
I don't think it's just Finland, right? I mean, he's known outside of just Finland, and he just released his book.
Yeah,
right?
he did. Yeah,
which now is available.
Yeah, so he's been doing these fantastic videos of where he goes around walking in the nature in the forests of Finland where he lives. And talks about different topics around blockchain, kind of the kind of philosophical things of what blockchains are and they are not, and he's gained a lot of people following him because of that, because it's really good content that he produces. It's a very concise 5-6 minute kind of videos where he brings in his expertise in the topic. And I think it was a kind of a good last guest for season 2, because
I think it was.
Yeah, he's a very popular character in this space, and always brings great stories with him.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So unfortunately, as always, time flies when you're having fun. I'm pretty sure somebody famous said that at some time in the past. At least we've said it a couple of times, even though we're not famous. But anyway. Yet. Let's keep it at that. It's time to close another episode of Fintech Daydreaming. Along with the season 2, which is now coming to an end, and it has been a great season. Definitely improvement on the already great season 1, and we're of course hoping that season 3 will improve even more. Now, do you have a fintech subject you would like Paul and I to cover in season 3, perhaps? Or maybe you have a great story to share and would like to join us as a guest. Or did you come up with a banking joke that you think other listeners might love or love to hate, which is of course the exact kind we like as well. Send us an email at hello@fintechdaydreaming.com, or ping us on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or Anchor FM page. And please be in touch. However you do it, please be in touch.
And why not give Ville and I a fantastic daydreaming Christmas present by smashing the like button on our YouTube channel, hitting the subscribe button and tickling the bell to make sure you do not miss the first episode of season 3 in January. Ville and I will be back in early January 2021 with a new season and episode of Fintech Daydreaming. But until then, we hope you have a fantastic Christmas and a happy new year. This has been Fintech Daydreaming.